everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing a review on the Too Faced Better Than Chocolate eyeshadow palette. If you do want to see a review and a demo, then please keep watching. As a huge favor, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and comment anything down below. I greatly appreciate it. I read all the comments and I will do my best to reply back. This palette retails for $54 at Too Faced online, Sephora, and Ulta Beauty. I do want to read a little bit about this palette on Sephora's website. A cocoa powder infused palette that features 18 ultra creamy, rich and chocolatey shades and pops of deliciously bold candy color. Here's a closer look on what the packaging looks like. It says Too Faced Better Than Chocolate. Up at the top you have the shades that are included in the eyeshadow palette plus the shade names. On the back of the palette you have a little description and the list of ingredients. On the bottom it says the bulk was made in the USA but it was assembled in the Dominican Republic. Let's open this up. Here's what the actual eyeshadow palette looks like. It does match the packaging. Again, it says Too Faced Better Than Chocolate, and then here's what the back of the palette looks like. Let's open this up. Here's what all 18 shadows look like, and of course it does come with a mirror. It does have a subtle chocolate scent to it. It smells very yummy. Now let's start swatching. The first shade in the palette is called Milk It. It's super soft in the pan. Milk It is described as a white with pink champagne pearl. I'm not loving how that's swatched. Let me blend this out. It looks much better blended out. The next shade is called Buttercream. Again, it's very soft and smooth in the pan. Buttercream is described as a light tan. Here's what Buttercream looks like. The third shade in the palette is called Gold Digger. Gold Digger is described as a yellow gold. Next up, we have Skinny Dipped. Skinny Dipped is described as a metallic brown with red glitter. That shade is stunning. The second to last shade in the top row is called Ooey Gooey. Ooey Gooey is described as a champagne nude with pink glitter. Again, another beautiful shimmer. The last shade in the top row is called Midnight Snack. Midnight Snack is described as a deep midnight plum. That's a little bit patchy. At least it blended out really nicely. The first shade in the second row is called Reality Chalk. Reality Chalk is described as a shimmering brown with red and gold glitter. Again, that shimmer is beautiful. Next up, we have Bitter Half. Bitter Half is described as a rich red brown. Next up, we have I'm the Dessert. I'm the Dessert is described as a rosy copper with pink, purple, and gold glitter. Another fabulous shade. Next up, we have Sugar Rush. Sugar Rush is described as a shifting lilac purple. That shade is super pretty. The second to last shade in the second row is called Cake My Day. Cake My Day is described as a rich medium brown. The last shade in the second row is called Bite Me. Bite Me is described as a light taupe. The first shade in the last row is called Lick the Bowl. Lick the Bowl is described as a mid-tone brown. The next shade is called Bless Your Tart. Bless Your Tart is described as a blue with shifting purple pearl. I'm not loving how that shadow swatched. The next shade is called Nice Buns. Nice Buns is described as a taupe brown. Next up, we have What the Fudge. What the Fudge is described as a maroon brown with tone on tone and gold glitter. The second to last shade is called Brownie Points. Brownie Points is described as a deep dark brown. The last shade in the palette is called Sext and Candy. Sext and Candy is described as a camel green with pink pearl. Here's what all 18 shades look like swatched on the back of my hand. Now we're going to create a look using this palette. I want to see how the blue shade and the purple shade perform. Using my finger, I'm going to dip into the shade called Bless Your Tart. I'm going to apply that in the center of my lid. I want to see how pigmented this shadow is. I was expecting a bit more pigmentation like it is in the pan. Let's see how this lilac shadow performs. Again, using my finger, I'm going to apply the lilac shadow in the inner corner of my eye. I'm going to blend it in a little bit to the blue shade in Bless Your Tart. I love this lilac shade. It is gorgeous. I want to see how the shade in Sugar Rush applies using a brush. This brush is dry. I haven't wet it with any setting spray. It applied nicely with a brush. I'm also curious to see what the shade in Sext and Candy looks like. Patting this on my outer V. It applied nicely on the eyes, but I do feel like these three shades in particular, the blue shade in Bless Your Heart, this lilac shade in Sugar Rush, and then this green shade in Sext and Candy, I feel like these three shadows are more of a topper. Again, I'm going to go in with the shade in Bless Your Tart, the shadow in Sugar Rush, and then Sext and Candy. Here's how those three shades look like. Here's what they look like swatched. It doesn't look that great when swatched, and they don't apply that great on the eyes either. I was just super curious to see how that looked on the eyelid. I'm gonna remove this and we're gonna create an eyeshadow look. Taking a clean fluffy brush, I'm gonna dip into the shade in Cake My Day. Applying this in the crease, going back and forth doing windshield wiper motions. That shade blended out so easily. Swapping my brush for a clean flat brush, I'm going to dip into the shadow in Nice Buns. Packing this shadow all over the lid. I really had to pack this shade in Nice Buns all over my eyelid for it to show up like this. So far, I'm not loving this formula. I'm not sure if Too Faced has changed this formula in particular. In the past, it used to be super pigmented, but for some reason, I really had to build up that shade. Using my finger, I'm going to be dipping into the shadow called Reality Chalk. Pack this in the center of my lid. Too Faced has definitely changed this formula. Before, I never used to get any fallout. This shade in Reality Chalk isn't super pigmented on my eyelid. I have a little bit of it on my finger. I'm gonna show you guys. Look how it's swatched on the back of my hand. It's not super pigmented. I'm gonna blend this out so you can see. Too Faced definitely changed their formula. I'm gonna dust away the fallout really quickly underneath my eye. I wanna see how that same shadow performs using a brush. I'm not loving how that shade looks. You can barely see it. It feels like I'm using a drugstore eyeshadow palette instead of a Too Faced palette. Using my finger, I'm going to dip into the shadow in What the Fudge. Pat this on my outer V for a little bit of dimension. The shade in What the Fudge performed way better than Reality Chalk. I'm going to close my eyes so you can see. It looks so much better. Again, I got a little bit of fallout underneath my eye. Let's see what the shade in I'm the Dessert looks like. Again, using my finger, pat this in the center of my lid. Wow, that shade performed so well. For the inner corner of my eye, I'm going to be taking the shadow in Ooey Gooey on a flat brush. Here's what the shade in Ooey Gooey looks like. I'm not impressed by this eyeshadow palette. The quality of these shades are performing subpar. Again, I feel like I'm using a drugstore eyeshadow palette instead of a Too Faced palette. I'm going to be doing the other eye really quickly and I'll be right back. Here's what the completed eye look looks like. For mascara, I'm going to apply the Too Faced Better Than Sex. For lips, I'm going to apply the shade in Moody from Maybelline. This is their Super Stay Vinyl Ink. I purchased this shade at Target. They have a few new shades. I purchased this shade in Moody and I also purchased this shade in Eccentric. The other new shades they released were open, so definitely check the back of the packaging. I just want to show you guys the difference. On the back here, you can see I already opened this, and this one I haven't tried out yet. All of them were like this on the display, so when it's like this, don't touch it. It's definitely been tampered with. When it's like this, that means it's okay to purchase. Make sure you give it a good shake first before you apply it. I'll show you what the shade in Moody looks like. The second shade is called Eccentric. Here's what the shade in Eccentric looks like. Really gorgeous shade. For today's look, I'm going to be applying the shade in Moody. Here's what everything looks like. My final thoughts on this eyeshadow palette is that I don't like the quality. Again, I do feel like Too Faced has changed their formula in this particular palette. Shadows, they don't perform the same as they used to, and the design of the packaging, I'm not sure what's going on with Too Faced's creative team, but this is not creative at all. It doesn't scream Too Faced in my opinion. If you look at their previous palettes, look how cute the design on the Sweet Peach palette looks like, and even their fall palette, the Cinnamon Swirl palette, this looks so cute. Versus their newer palette, this just looks blah in my opinion. At least make it look like a chocolate bar. This time around, I feel like Too Faced went lazy. They just slapped on the name and that was it. For $54, I was expecting a better formula. The shimmer shades in the palette don't perform as they used to. This beautiful lilac shade does not perform. The blue shadow doesn't perform at all. I was super surprised by this shade. It barely showed up on my eyelid. This is just not the palette that I was expecting from Too Faced. I would not recommend it. Let me know in the comments down below if you have this in your collection or if you plan on purchasing it. If you guys did enjoy this video, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe. I will see you guys in my next video.